Hey everybody, GC13 here. This time last year, there was a video I wanted to make. Unfortunately, at the time, I wasn't really in a shape to be writing any script that required much thinking, so I made a video with a much more lighthearted take instead. This time though, there's no February flu to stop me. What I want to look at today is She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, and the anti-intellectual tropes it includes. Now, there's a reason I decided to focus entirely on Entrapta last year. It was thanks to the show's treatment of her during her time with the Horde that I started pondering about all of this in the first place. In her very first episode even, we see Entrapta eager to toy with dangerous forces without regard for the consequences when she reassembles the data disk that had caused the mayhem everyone had just endured. Nothing good happened because she rebuilt it, for the rebellion or the Horde. It just caused more chaos that everyone involved had to clean up before it was destroyed for good. Then there's the matter of her defection to the Horde. As smart as Entrapta is, it was so easy for Catra to talk her over to their side, even though the viewer knows that everything Catra is saying is wrong. Not much later, she's happily building weapons for a tyrant, knowing full well what he's going to use them for. And let's not forget that tyrant either. While Hordak is more than he appears, when we first really get to know him, we see what Entrapta sees, an engineer, a man of science. We also see how bad he is at it, making what Entrapta views as simple, easily correctable mistakes. Yes, it's true that Hordak was never trained as an engineer. He was originally a battlefield commander, so the fact that he's come as far as he has should be regarded as a triumph of his intellect. It's just that Hordak really becomes quite pathetic. For all of his put-on airs of authority, you see, Hordak is a terrible leader too. He may have commanded legions of troops, but they were all clones who had been ordered to follow him without question. He knows tactics, he knows strategies, but he doesn't know how to actually lead. Catra says as much before she's sent off into the Crimson Waste, and she was never privy to any of Hordak's backstory. She was able to figure all of it out on her own. Had Horde Prime not come along, Catra probably would have stayed with the Etherian Horde forever. She fits in perfectly with the tropes you've come to expect from an evil, expansionist empire. She's capable, she's ambitious, and she's willing to do whatever it takes to fulfill that ambition. Other than her will and ability, there's nothing particularly special about her. She's not great because she's an Etherian princess, or because she found a magical sword. She's great because she is. Basically, she's an evil version of the everyman, letting us know that even ordinary folk can do extraordinary things. And she's the one who lays Hordak low. Capitalizing on his physical frailty, long a cultural marker of that egghead inferior to real men, she lets him know that no matter what they tell the Horde soldiers out there, she's the one in charge. The war only starts going well for the Horde once she orders Hordak into the lab, where he belongs, to make new weapons for the real leader's troops to use. Entrapta and Hordak are the movers and shakers as far as Etheria's brainiacs go, and they both have a common element. They may be the smart ones, but the ordinary Catra is the one who twists them around her finger and uses them for her own ends. There are intellectuals on Etheria who Catra hasn't bent to her will, but they're a pair of goofballs. Lovable goofballs who never lift a finger against Etheria, it's true, but George and Lance aren't exactly shining examples of historians. The emotional core of their debut episode is how clueless they are about Bo. They don't know he doesn't want to be a historian, they don't know he's fighting in the rebellion, they don't even know that the school he's supposedly going to doesn't exist. But, as clueless as they are about their son, they don't seem to know much about their field of study either. You see, George and Lance are experts about the first ones. That experts gets the scare quotes because while I'm sure in the lore of the show they know a lot, we spend a lot of time focusing on what they think they know, but don't. They mistranslate She-Ra as Her-Ra, and for some reason think She-Ra fights for the power of Grayskull rather than the honor. And I don't think they've seen the original He-Man cartoon on Etheria.
That excuse is getting old. Sit down!
Their translation errors continue when they somehow place a text about aqueducts in with their texts on Serenia, and George even got lunch tattooed on himself because he mistranslated it as love. Now, they're not complete comic relief. In the end, they prove that they know a thing or two about the first ones after all, by identifying the Serenia constellation and deciphering its meaning. We had to go through a lot of comedy to get there, though. So far, we've had 2 eggheads manipulated by a real leader, and 2 silly bookworms who had their time in the sun. There is one book-smart character who is consistently portrayed well, though. If Catra is your evil everyman, then Bo is your good everyman. In a world of princesses gifted their power by the planet itself, everything Bo can do is a skill he's developed on his own. He's a man of so many talents you might actually forget what a techie he is, but when Entrapta defects, He steps up as the rebellion's resident technology expert. He also develops all of his own arrows and participates in the Ethereum Makers community. He's more than that, though. He's a soldier, fighting for the forces of good. He's the love interest of the princess, later queen, of Brightmoon. And he's consistently the best friend on the best friend squad. Bo never stops being the team smart one, but he never gets bogged down to the point where that's his one trait. He never betrays his friends, he never gets put in his place, he just gets to be a protagonist. As a member of the main cast, Bo is afforded more privileges than the side characters get, and so is far more well-rounded. It's why he gets to stand out as the one smart character that the show doesn't ever seem to look down on. She-Ra and the Princesses of Power isn't an anti-intellectual show. At no point in the writer's room did anyone stand up and say, you know what? We should use our show as a vehicle to remind people that eggheads aren't so great. Hordak was eventually redeemed through his relationship with Entrapta. Entrapta herself was redeemed through her later heroism, showing that she had grown as a character. Even George and Lance eventually found the Ethereum failsafe and the passphrase to use it. The writers definitely liked these characters and wanted you to as well, but their earlier portrayals prove that you can't watch what your show says about everything. How do you feel about our Ethereum eggheads? Do you think they were treated too harshly in the middle of the show? Let me know down in the comments below. Like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you didn't, and make sure you subscribe to the channel for more cartoon videos.